everybody. I'm back for another episode of the Changemaker Conversation series. I'm Afton Brazzoni, and I'm here today with Maxim Cramer, and she is the founder of Mennenia. And they help women entrepreneurs start, launch, and grow their businesses by making technology as simple as everyday English. Now, don't we all love the sound of that? Welcome, Maxim. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Afton. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited for a chat.
Yes, well, to kick it off, I'd love it if you could just tell everybody about yourself and your business in your own words.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the especially the everyday English bit. But a bit about me, I've been into tech from a young age, which was a bit weird. It was still when it was fairly unfashionable and a bit geeky. And I found it so interesting. There's so much you can create with, technology and computers and so on. So it was really my jam. Went into it at school as well and university levels. And then the iPhone came out and that changed everything, I feel, because it really made it accessible to people on a day-to-day basis. So I went into iOS development. And what was interesting in my career as a software engineer and as a designer is that what I noticed is there were a lot of women who had these great ideas and they felt held back. They felt like they couldn't bring those ideas to fruition in the tech space because there was this invisible, it's not a glass ceiling, it's like an invisible glass door or wall that they couldn't find, the way through. And so I was kind of unofficially coaching and mentoring and explaining, like, how do you manage a tech project? How do you work with engineers? How do you actually make the darn thing, if you will? And then I eventually thought, you know what, I think I want to do that full time because it brings me a lot of joy. And I feel like we really, really need this in the world, with all of us using technology, but not all of us making technology. And so it's becoming very skewed. We're seeing this in numerous ways. I could talk about that all day, so I'll just leave it at that. So I feel really, really strongly about the mission at Mennenia, which is to bring more women into tech and make everyone feel like they can innovate and do things and make great products.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important because even as someone who's been writing about tech for a few years now, it still feels like a whole other world. And I think making it more accessible to people, because there are so many women entrepreneurs with fantastic ideas that just don't know, the first kind of step to take to get it started. So yeah, I think that's amazing. And kind of on that note, can you tell me about some of the challenges that you see female founders facing in the tech space?
Absolutely. And I think there's quite a few, and it depends, for everyone, it's a bit different when they face their biggest challenge. I think first and foremost, there is that initial barrier of like tech not seen as something for women. I mean, STEM has this issue more generally speaking, but it's mathsy and complicated and sciencey and it's which is actually not true. Software was started by women, and it actually halfway through became more of a men's thing, which is a very long story as well. Fun history fact there. But so it's already something that I think many women aren't encouraged to do from a young age. And then as they build this great expertise in other fields and they think, gosh, you know what, I think there is an intersection here, because I think that's the beauty of so many of the ideas that I've heard from female founders is like, hey, I'm really good at this and I want to bring it over here. And I think tech is a way to scale it, to make it accessible and available to everyone and to bring that impact. That's when even more barriers begin, because there is this lack of what I call tech literacy. So the ability to communicate with the tech world, who have very much got their own way of doing things. And so what I notice is, when we'll put together some initial savings to make the first version of an app or a platform or a product, and then the engineers make something that they didn't have in mind, that whole process is just not going very well, which is really upsetting. But say they make it through that, right? Then the question is about scale and funding, especially in tech. Venture capital is a fairly popular way to scale your fund, your business and grow it. And women still only get about 2.3% of the capital out there. At least those were the numbers last year, reported by Crunchbase. So every step along the way, there are certain difficulties. And I think also, I can't speak for everyone, but there are not a lot of great role models around how you can do this whole madness in a sustainable way. I call it the Silicon Valley hustle, right? We keep hearing about how to fail fast and move fast and break things. And like, what if you break yourself in the process? Like, that's not sustainable. So, and we see more of this with, the founder of Bumble. I feel really bad. I've forgotten her
Oh,
name
Whitney
right now.
Wolfhard.
Thank you. Thank you. Ringing the bell with her children and things like that, so we're starting to see this, but I think still it's that hustle culture that can feel quite intimidating as well. It's not the only way to do things, but it's the one that gets talked about the most and modeled the most. So those are just some of the challenges that I think are out there.
Well, that's not a short list. Yeah, so again, I just think it really does underscore the need for companies like yours, and just for these conversations in general, really, with female founders, because yeah, I love what you said. Like, what if you break yourself in the process? That's always, I think, in any industry, really, it's just there's a different way to do business. So I just love that you're bringing that forward. And I think actually that leads nicely into the next question here. So what advice or tips do you have for women who, maybe they're in tech, maybe they're thinking about it? What would you say to them to help them get past some of these barriers?
Definitely. I think firstly, I think there's a level of demystifying it. You do not need to be a maths wizard, a genius, a developer, a coder, any of these things to enter this industry, right? I want to clear that up straight away because that can sometimes be a misconception. What I do think is important is, again, this concept of tech literacy, where you learn a little bit on how to speak that language. It's okay if you don't to start, like it's not a prerequisite. Again, I want to make that very, very clear. But I've also seen people really wanting to outsource it, right? So they want to say create an app or a platform, and they're like, I'll get someone else to deal with that, like a technical co-founder. And I do think if you don't pick up some of those skills, it becomes very hard to strategize, bring your vision to life, communicate with that world. And so it's worth picking up those skills. And then I think the other thing is around a mindset of, find your strengths. Again, when you come into a new space, it's kind of always the case. It's not only in technology as an industry, but we can be overwhelmed with everything we don't know, but there's actually a lot that we do know. So what are your strengths? What are you bringing to the table? And be darn proud of that. When you're going into pitch for investment, right? A lot of people, they look at the team and they ultimately invest in the founder, not just the idea, because the idea you can kind of mold and pivot and do all those types of things. And so your expertise, which I know that, if you're starting to do this, you're ambitious, you're hardworking, you've got this, right? So don't discredit or discount what you're bringing to the table, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And especially the piece about if they are investing in the founder, the closer you can be to the product. And like you said, I actually love that you said about the misconception of having to have like a level of wizardry that, a lot of us just don't have, because I actually always thought that too. I really did. And it's nice to hear that that isn't necessary, but what you do need is, don't let yourself just close off from it because you think you don't know, and really like meld sort of your passion and what you do know together. And I think that that's a great piece of advice. So how can female founders work with your company, Mennenia, to make strides in their businesses?
Well, I feel like I've said it a few times now, but tech literacy is actually a course that I teach. And I think I trademarked the name only in the UK, but anyway. So it's my thing, it's my baby, because it's something that I believed in so strongly from all these conversations with founders. And like you say, if you Google how to learn the tech thing, you get programming courses. And as a founder, you should definitely not be programming. But there's a level of this kind of stuff that you need to know. So that's one of the things. And I do this in multiple ways. So I have a 6-week program that as a founder you can join. But also I teach this as part of accelerators. So I work with the University of Westminster and their venture program to teach their cohorts about this. And I'm also looking to expand this into B2B, because I think the program really marries business strategy, design, and development. And a lot of companies actually themselves also could do with some support in that area. It's kind of the role I always ended up taking unofficially when I worked at startups in the past. And then, yeah, I do some consulting as well. I don't have as much time for that, but with certain clients, who've got an established business and they're looking to inject some technology into that to scale that. And they're a bit like, okay, so now how do I do that? Do I add an app? Do I add a platform? I consult for those cases as well.
Amazing. Love it. Well, there you go, everyone. And so before we wrap up, I'd love to hear, what's next for Mennenia? What are you up to coming into this new year here?
So there is some fun madness going on. I've been thinking about an app for a very long time. Obviously, I'm traditionally an app developer. And I was a bit like, well, how would that fit in with what I do? And what I started hearing with these conversations as well was this notion of, I don't have the skills to be a founder, so I'm not going to do it. And these were women opting out of it before actually truly understanding what that entails, because no founder starts off being a fantastic communicator, a great leader, a fantastic, they gather perfect teams together, knowing all this tech literacy, right? We all learn that on the journey. And so I wanted to create an app called Founder's Journey, which is your daily companion to the chaos, and acts a bit like an antidote to the Silicon Valley hustle, and does highlight things like, what are your strengths? What are your values? What's your vision? What are you wanting to do in this world? As well as practical advice for your business. It alternates with prompts. It's like a daily journaling prompt, and they alternate between looking at yourself and how you feel about things, as well as your business, and analyzing things there. So that's coming out early next year. I'm very excited for it.
So good. I love that. And actually, even though I'm not a tech founder, but I want that app. I think like anybody could benefit from that. That sounds absolutely amazing.
It's fairly universal. I will say the content isn't just specific to tech stuff.
Okay, well, keep me on your email list about that, please. So yeah, and I guess on that note, actually, how can everyone here who's watching today reach out to you or find you on social media?
Absolutely. So first of all, my email, maxim@mennenia.com. I love hearing from people. So, I'm not shy about sharing my email if you want to get in touch. Other than that, we have our website, mennenia.com. It's a tricky spelling, so I'm sure I can give you a link, hopefully. I run a podcast as well. It's called Cutting Through Tech. So if you'd like to hear more and also interviews with other founders in the space, that's a great resource. And then you can sign up for the beta for the app if you're interested in trying it out. So that's going to be on foundersjourney.app.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, was there anything else you wanted to share with everybody before we sign off today?
No, I've just really enjoyed, having this chat with you, and I don't know, it's always fun. I always enjoy this kind of thing. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll be back, everyone, in a few weeks with another Changemaker Conversations interview. Take care, Maxime. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.